into our panel, Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist, Morgan Ortagus, former State Department spokesperson, and Kimberly Strassel, a member of the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal. Kimberly, what do you make of today, its impact and big picture? It's obviously historic, but how much do you think it's going to change the fabric of America in what has come down in this ruling?
Well, hopefully for the better, Brett. You know, pretty much my entire life we've been living with this fight. And a lot of us have long believed that the Supreme Court's decision to essentially invent this right out of whole cloth really kicked off the culture wars in the United States. And this decision that the court seemed to hope would settle the issue, in fact, just inflamed it, especially because so many people felt as though they were being cut out of their ability to have a political debate and make decisions in their own state that best fit their people. Let's hope that this actually, by returning it to the states, actually allows us to begin forging a new path.
There's a lot of talk, Leslie, about the political implications of this, and from many Democratic lawmakers today, as well as the president, it was all about this is on the ballot. How do you see it?
I do see it as on the ballot. There are rumblings in states how to prevent the abortion pill from coming in, even talking about how can we override a federal travel ban to prevent women from traveling from a state that doesn't allow abortion to a state like I'm in California that does and will continue to do so. Other things that are of issue, approximately 10 states that will not allow exceptions with abortion bans for rape and incest. Also rumblings from the Republican Party that if they get the House and the Senate, very key to the midterm and the voters in the November election, that they may have a federal ban on abortion as early as 2 weeks after a missed period. So this is on the ballot. And I have to say, I wish Democrats would take a page out of the Republican handbook. One of the things that Republicans do very well is they get one issue, you know, Brett, and they go really hard with that one issue. This is that issue. And if you want to add a second for Democrats, it's guns and gun control. But this is a big issue, and I certainly hope my party will come out in numbers like we've never seen, because certainly Republicans usually outnumber us, especially in the midterms.
Morgan?
Well, I think there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, first, this is the most animating decision for the Republican Party, and it's probably the single most important conservative policy outcome that I think any of us have seen in our lifetimes. As Leslie pointed out, you've had people working around the clock for 50 years to try and see this overturned. So if you take a step back and look at it, what does it mean for the midterms, as Leslie was just talking about? All the Republican operatives I said today just don't believe that people around this country are going to be voting based on abortion. You'll remember in 2018, during the Kavanaugh hearings, when Republicans got incredibly animated by how he was treated by Democratic senators. During those hearings, everyone thought, well, maybe we'll actually keep the House. A month or so later, we had the November elections, and of course, the Democrats took back the House. So what I'm seeing in nationwide polls after this was leaked just several weeks ago, voters are still going to be voting on inflation and the economy. The Democrats might get a bump in key purple states, but I think ultimately it's not the motivating factor that they think it will be.
All right, final thoughts with the panel, maybe even winners and losers. We'll see on the other side.
Today's historic Supreme Court decision is a victory for the sanctity of life.
Voters need to make their voices heard. This fall, we must elect more senators and representatives who will codify women's right to choose. This fall, Roe is on the ballot. Personal freedoms are on the ballot.
With your vote, you can act, and you have the final word. So this is not over.
Bring back our panel, Leslie, Morgan, and Kimberly. Kimberly, there are 26 states that either have laws, 13 of them have triggered laws based on this ruling today that have a restriction or some different bans about abortion. What about that and the argument that people in those states are going to be unjustly treated if they, for example, want to have an abortion?
Well, watch this space, Brett. I'd like to see how this actually plays out, because a lot of those trigger laws you're talking about were put in place a long time ago, and views on this have changed over the years. Most Americans are kind of in the middle on this question. A lot of them were, for instance, in favor. There's lots of majorities for, like, the Mississippi 15-week ban, which was what was in front of the court. So even some of those trigger laws may not stick. We've got a long way to go to see where states shake out on this.
Yeah, Leslie, it's also interesting that the president said today that the U.S. would be an outlier in the world. But in Europe, if you look at different nations, a lot of them have bans or some restrictions on abortion already. And in the current position was kind of an outlier.
The majority of people that I know that are pro-choice, and I include myself in that, Brett, they are not people that want, and the majority don't want, late-term abortions. They do want limits. They have problems with no exceptions for when the mother's life is in danger, or like we have in 10 of those 41 bans in 10 states currently. Of those 26 states, there is no exception for rape or for incest victims. Those are the things that are most problematic to those of us that call ourselves pro-choice.
Yeah, Morgan, Hillary Clinton tweeted out, most Americans believe the decision to have a child is one of the most sacred decisions there is, and that such decisions should remain between patients and their doctors. Today's Supreme Court opinion will live in infamy as a step backward for women's rights and human rights. And I saw someone tweet out, what will live in infamy is that you should have campaigned in Wisconsin, because elections in 2016 had consequences for the Supreme Court and this decision today.
There are 3 Supreme Court justices because she didn't campaign in Wisconsin. You're right. I was just thinking that. And that's why 2 people who are not very friendly to each other, former President Trump and Mitch McConnell, deserve a lot of credit in Republican and conservative legal circles for getting these justices through today. And I can tell you there's a lot of people that think that other Republican presidents may not have stood by their nominees the way President Trump did. And so you're going to see, I think, a little bit of bump in support for him for this ruling today.
Could there be, Kimberly, a pro-life benefit for Republicans in the midterm election?
Yeah, I think that that's possible. I mean, this goes both ways, and this is one of the reasons Trump was elected, was because of his Supreme Court list that said that he was going to put those kind of people on the court.
All right, ladies, thank you very much on a historic day.